Campaigning is underway in the Central African Republic ahead of elections at the end of the month. Voters will choose national, regional, and municipal lawmakers and the country's next president. The incumbent Faustin-Archange Touadéra is seeking re-election in a 7-strong field after modifying the constitution to allow him to seek a third term.
Clear jubilation on show in Bangui, a celebration of the launch of the electoral battle. Voting at levels in the Central African Republic. Municipal, regional, legislative, and the big prize of the presidency. The elections are a major challenge for the country, still plagued by instability.
I would ask you to take a look at the situation in 2016 when I took office. There was no state authority throughout the country. Here in Bangui, there were only internally displaced people around the airport, in mosques, in churches, in schools. What's the situation today, 10 years on? We see a country that is gradually recovering, that is raising its head. Because, you see, some time ago, the press was talking about the Central African Republic as a failed state, as a country on the brink of genocide.
But President Touadéra is up against opposition. Foremost among his opponents is Anicet-Georges Dologuele. Dologuele had to give up his French passport as the Central African Constitution doesn't allow candidates with dual nationality to run for the office of the president. Why did you relinquish your French nationality? Is it a thirst for power or what? If you lose these elections, would you regret having relinquished your French nationality?
No, because I am going to win these elections. I renounced my French nationality to run against the incumbent president. Do you see the difficulty? It means that I love my country. It means that I want to save my country. I'm giving up something that brings me nothing but advantages in order to face difficulties.
As the various candidates jockey for position, it is the people of the Central African Republic who have the final say when they cast their votes.
I already have my voter card, which I will use to vote for the person who will bring us peace.
It's our duty to take precautions to vote in order to have peace and democracy in our country and to prove to the world that we are ready to accept democracy. It's a civic duty for all Central Africans to participate in these elections.
Whoever wins this election, we no longer want the sound of gunfire. We just want peace and stability in our country.
As Central Africans are preparing to go to the polls on the 28th of December 2025 to vote for a new president who is going to handle the future of this country for the next 7 years, the country is still facing some few security challenges.
We've made progress from where we were to where we are today. However, there's still a long way to go. And that's what I'm calling for. I'm asking the Central African people to give me another opportunity to continue working with them, to continue serving them.
But with questions hanging over the outcome of the election, such as poverty, lack of opportunity, and insecurity, the opposition may yet be in with a chance.
And here on DW News Africa on YouTube, we have a special extended version of the interview that you just saw parts of in that report. Our correspondent Zigoto Tchaya sat down with President Faustin-Archange Touadéra. Take a listen.
And today we have with us President Faustin-Archange Touadéra. Good day, Mr. President.
Merci. Merci.
You are going in for a new term. Can you tell us how it has been for the past 10 years?
Merci beaucoup pour l'opportunité.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about the results. It's true that the Central African people renewed their confidence in me twice, in 2016 and in 2020-21. And in March 2026, I will have been in office for 10 years. What have we achieved together with the entire Central African people during these 10 years? I would ask you to take a look at the situation in 2016 when I took office. There was no state authority throughout the country. Here in Bangui, there were only internally displaced persons around the airport, in mosques, in churches, in schools. And you couldn't go out without an escort beyond areas PK-12 and PK-9. There were practically no civil servants in the hinterland. We had security and peace issues. There was also a tense social climate because, well, social cohesion was really lacking and there were a lot of divisions among the population. People were at each other's throats and everyone distrusted each other. Our defense forces were completely non-existent. As I said earlier, there was not a single Central African combat group on the ground. It was foreign forces. It was the United Nations forces, the Sangari forces, the French forces, and the MINUSCA forces that ensured security here. What is the situation today, 10 years on? We see a country that is gradually recovering, that is raising its head. Because, you see, some time ago, the press was talking about the Central African Republic as a failed state, as a country on the brink of genocide. In this context, can we even talk about the economy? The economic fabric was in tatters. I don't want to talk about the other aspects. The Central African population, which lived off agriculture, could no longer farm, could no longer feed itself. It was humanitarian aid, and all that was pouring into Bangui. And our health centers were completely deserted because they didn't exist. The staff was no longer there. So I wouldn't go into too much detail about this situation, which could be described as apocalyptic. But over the past 10 years, the Central African people have shown great resilience in overcoming their difficulties. Today, we have a people who live in perfect harmony between communities. Our institutions are in place and the defense forces are deployed. We've gone from 5,000 armed forces personnel to more than 23,000 on the ground today, including both gendarmes and police officers. Today, our forces secure the entire territory alongside United Nations forces. We were under embargo. Imagine that. Whether it was on weapons, diamond mining, or diamond exports. So in every respect, we were really in a difficult situation. But today the embargoes have been lifted. Our forces are rebuilding. State authority extends across the entire territory. That means that the government administers the whole country. I don't want to say that everything is rosy. There are still challenges. There are still major challenges. That's why I'm running for office today, because people have seen that peace is here. We had identified 14 armed groups. Today, 11 armed groups have declared their self-dissolution. I'm currently working on the process to sign peace agreements with 2 major armed groups. A third one has been added. So the disarmament process is continuing at the moment.
His Excellency, there are some pockets of insecurity in some parts of the country, for example, like Markunda and less of the Odumbumu. We still have the Russians and the Rwandans here. How are they going to operate in that with the insecurity situation that is still found in that area?
Our defense forces have increased their numbers today. And when you see that we have the support of a number of partners here, notably, as you mentioned, our Russian and Rwandan bilateral forces with MINUSCA. But these forces are accompanied by Central African forces. There are still some challenges. There are bandits, as in any country, who take advantage of certain situations during the dry season and the rainy season to continue their activities. We are continuing to work with our forces and deploy them to protect our people. You mentioned Ombomu and the rebels there. They are bandits. The FACA, the police, and other forces are on the ground to protect our people. And that's what we're doing. Our forces are prepared and trained for this. We reached an agreement on April 19, 2025, thanks to the support of the Chadian authorities, notably President Mahamat Idriss Déby Itno, whereby 2, now 3 armed groups have decided to surrender their weapons, lay down their arms, and return to the Republic. And that's why we will continue our policy of extending a hand. But for those who continue to engage in banditry and violence, they will find the forces of law and order standing in front of them to protect the population. That is their mission.
Your government at the World Bank noticed that there is still a problem of famine and poverty in the country. So what are you going to do about that?
We've been working for 10 years, not only on security, but also to provide basic services to our people, whether in the field of health or education. Today, we have recruited many of our health workers who have been trained. No Central African doctors are unemployed today. They've all been recruited. We've recruited teachers for primary education to replace what are commonly known as parent teachers, and we are building new schools. We're in the process of updating the educational content, which was very outdated, to make it more relevant. So we've done a lot, and we can clearly see that there's been undeniable and significant progress. But as I said, we've made progress from where we were to where we are today. However, there's still a long way to go. That is what I'm calling for. I'm asking the Central African people to give me another opportunity to continue working with them, to continue serving them. And I'm doing this with their consent because before I announced my candidacy, there were marches and memoranda across the country saying, "Mr. President, we want you to run because we've seen where we were, and today we're beginning to feel that the country is recovering. We're back on our feet. So can we change a winning team? We must continue." That is the meaning of my candidacy.
How and where do you see yourself in the next 7 years?
Listen, in the next 7 years, if I have the confidence of the people, I will continue to serve them with enthusiasm, pleasure, and pride, as I have done since 2016, with great commitment. Because I see the fruits of my labor, and I also see that the people appreciate it. So it gives me more courage, more willpower, and more determination. So the next 7 years will be truly devoted to the development of the Central African Republic, and I think we have laid the foundations. We're going to transform the Central African Republic over the next 7 years.
His Excellency President Touadéra, thank you for having this sit down with us. We wish you good luck.
Merci beaucoup.